I'm Amelia. Today we are talking about stirrups and stirrup length. I get a lot of questions asked about this. Be sure to give this video a thumbs up and subscribe if you want to learn more about riding and dressage tips. So, the best way to determine whether or not your stirrups are the correct length, I get this question asked so often from people, is that what you're going to do is you're going to take your foot out of the stirrup and just let your leg hang long. And what you want is that you want the bottom of your stirrup to be about level with your ankle bone. So you can see here how when I take my foot out of the stirrup, my leg is just a little bit longer than the stirrup. The bottom of the stirrup is level with my ankle bone, so that if I were to get my stirrup, I just bring my toe a little bit up and get my toe in the stirrup like so. And then I make sure once I get my foot in the stirrup, a couple of things is that the stirrup should be perpendicular to your foot. So the stirrup goes across the ball of your foot. You don't want the stirrup to be like this, or you might lose it, or too far on your toe. So you want that stirrup to be across the ball of your foot. And then when you're sitting here in the saddle, I would say that about 80% of your weight is in your seat. So basically, like, the weight of your upper body should go into your seat bones, and the weight of your legs should go into your stirrups. So some of the most common mistakes that I see people make as far as their stirrups is, one is people put way too much weight into their stirrups. So if you put like all of your weight into your stirrups, it makes you do this. You see how like my lower leg is jammed too far forward, and I'm actually pushing my seat out of the saddle. So you don't want to do that. The other mistake that I see happen a lot, especially at the canter, and riders that tend to grip with the saddle, is they draw their legs up and they lose their stirrups. So they actually draw their feet out of the stirrups. So ideally, you want to have the weight of your legs into your stirrups. You want to make sure that your heel stays underneath of your hips. So let me show you this while I'm going around, is that I'm always kind of aware of the feeling in the bottom of my foot. So I always have a little bit of pressure in my stirrups. This allows me to stay grounded and balanced in the saddle. So that's why we have stirrups, is that they help us to stay a little bit more balanced in the saddle. Now, if I need to use my leg, like if I need to give my horse a little kick, I give my horse a little kick and then I push my heel down again so that I make sure to keep the weight in my stirrup. If for whatever reason you happen to lose your stirrup, so if your foot accidentally slides out of the stirrup, what you want to do is you want to lift your toe up, and then you have to kind of fish around, and like when you feel the stirrup hit your foot, you know you're close. So you have to kind of fish around and find your stirrup again. What you don't want to do is, if you lose your stirrup, you don't want to like lean over the side of your horse, because that could cause you to fall off. If you have to stop at first to pick up your stirrup, then you can do that. So the reason that your stirrups are important is that they allow you to post the trot. So if I'm going here, basically the stirrups are what allow me to get my seat out of the saddle. And so I'm putting a little bit of pressure in my foot every time I come out of the saddle. And that's a lot of why we have stirrups, is because they give us better balance and better coordination in our ride. Good girl, mama. So as far as stirrup length, if you're a jumper rider or a hunter, they have their stirrups a little bit shorter. Dressage riders tend to ride with a little longer stirrup. Depending on your horse and your comfort level, like for example with her, because she's kind of small and my legs are really long, I tend to have just a little bit of a shorter stirrup than I might have on a bigger bodied horse. Also, if I'm riding a young horse that I feel a little nervous about, like that I'm worried that might try to like jump around or do something unexpected, sometimes I'll have a little bit of a shorter stirrup. I'm going to show you quickly here what happens if your stirrups are too long. So if you need to adjust your stirrups in the saddle, first of all, you want to make sure that your horse is not going to freak out and like run away with you. I trust this horse. You take your foot out of the stirrup, you slide your leg back, you pull down on the top of your stirrup. Now I'm going to lengthen my stirrups 2 holes and show you guys what happens when your stirrups are too long. So you can see how now, like when I have my foot out of the stirrup, you can tell it's too long. And when I put my foot in the stirrup, I just feel like I'm kind of reaching a lot for the stirrups. Let me lengthen the other one also. Okay, so now you can see like my stirrup is way too long. You see how basically I'm having to like really reach for my stirrup. And unfortunately, with my stirrup this long, I'm gonna have a really hard time getting my leg on my horse, because like in order to get my leg on my horse, I'm gonna have to really draw my heel up. Now let me show you what happens if I try to post the trot like this. So if I ask her to go up to trot, she's not even gonna trot, but you see what my leg is doing? Like you see how my leg is like all over the place and my body is all over the place. Like I have no stability in the saddle whatsoever. So that's like really perfectly illustrates why your stirrup length is so important. Now let me show you what happens if your stirrups are too short. So I'm gonna just quickly shorten my stirrups. Okay, so now my stirrups are too short, and you see a couple of things are happening here. One is that my knee is pushing up against this thigh block, so I'm no longer able to really keep my thigh behind the thigh block where it's supposed to be. The other thing is I feel like my lower leg is like way back here in her flank. So if your stirrups are too short like this, it's going to cause you to pitch a little bit forward and your butt to go too far out behind you and your lower leg to go too far back. It's also going to make it so that when you post, you like are posting way too far out of the saddle like this. So you really don't want to have your stirrups this short, especially if you're trying to ride dressage. If you're a jumper rider and you need to be like in a little more of a 2-point like this, then it's okay to have a little bit of a shorter stirrup. But in general, the general rule is that when you take your feet out of the stirrups, you want that stirrup to be right at the ankle bone here on the inside of your boot, and that's gonna give you a lot of security and balance in the saddle. So let me know in the comments if this is helpful. Play around a little with your stirrup length. Try like a little shorter, a little longer. Make sure your stirrups are even. Sometimes the left stirrup will get stretched out more because you're always getting on and off on the left side. So you do sometimes need to switch your stirrup leathers to make sure that they stay even. So hopefully this was helpful. Check out the description. I have a free mini course on rider position. That's awesome. And I know it will help give you some more details about your entire rider position. And thanks so much for watching.